Beautiful creatures of this great green planet. Welcome back. It's League on Lock. Mark and Eric here with you guys to recap really the only major league that's still going on with the finals wrapping up in the LCK. You got the LPL with the absolute banger of the top four matching up, and didn't quite end how you thought. The back-to-back world champions in IG and FPX from China. Everyone was already kind of waiting for that rematch in the finals, but TES and both JDG said, no, man, it's our time. We're the hotter teams coming into playoffs, and they both absolutely showed up. It was JDG versus FPX on Monday. The 3-0 mark. They improved to 19-0 since Zoom has returned to the lineup. That's insane. 19-0.
It's crazy, man. You're watching this one. You watch the way that they play. Look, we talked about this series, and when we're heading into this one against FPX, the thoughts were of last year and thinking of the upset that JDG was able to pull off and make it multiple times in the playoffs here to keep that run here to the finals. What we saw in this series, very different beast entirely. This was domination from the side of JDG. This wasn't just upsets and picking little things off here and finding your way through. This was pure domination from start to finish, except maybe a little bit in game 3, got a bit out of their hands, and then FPX put it right back into their hands here so JDG can close this out. But impressive performances from this squad, and again, people are going to look to that miracle run last year and try to make similarities. There aren't a lot of similarities here, just given the way that this team has upped their level of play and how much more dangerous they look here in this playoffs compared to last year.
Yeah, and when we dive into every game in the set, you start with that first one where you had Kassadin for doing B. He hasn't died on the champion on 3 games. And game 1 was one of the weirdest I've ever seen in the LPL because
everyone decided not to die.
We're talking about first blood at 33 minutes. The longest first blood, not just in the LPL, in a competitive game ever. 33 minutes. And still, JDG had an almost 8,000 gold lead with 0 kills.
Insane what was going on in that one here from the JDG side. This is the way that they pulled FPX across the map and really not letting FPX do that to them. That's what FPX loves to do to other teams, is pull you around the map.
They just did that in their last round.
Right, and this was exactly the same medicine here served right back into your face, and it absolutely smashed FPX in the game 1 here. Right, this was the Kassadin pick here for doing B, and we had seen him not give up a lot of deaths. This was a different story in this one, the way that it went here after, of course, the first 30 minutes. It was all about JDG in game 1 here as they took that first advantage.
It was just a very long build-up to a couple of the final fights before JDG would eventually get an ace. Obviously, Doinb did die twice on the Kassadin, finished 0-2-1. Yagao looked great on the Corki in that first game. Kanavi had the Graves pick, and it ended up being FPX kind of traded they didn't trade. They didn't have a choice. They got the Cloud Soul while JDG got Baron and ended up closing out the game from there. But it was an impressive movement around the map for 30 minutes. Some of the coaches and analysts, you absolutely love games like that where there's no kills and it's just dancing around the map and you still get an 8,000 gold lead. Masterclass out of JDG.
There is plenty here, and plenty positive for JDG and plenty negative for the FPX coaches to go back and look at in that game 1. And that's kind of, as you said, the real benefit here is that even though it was a game that was deathless for about over 30 minutes, it still provided a lot of learning tools here for both sides moving forward. And especially on the JDG side, these are the positives that you want to be reinforcing as you lead into your finals matchup.
And game 2 rolls around, and it was another solid early game for JDG. It didn't take 30 minutes for them to get their first kills. They had a 3-0 lead. They got 3 kills in the top lane. They had a 2,000 gold lead, 2 dragons to their name. But eventually, a couple of team fights, Doinb's Rise started getting rolling. He got a triple kill in that mid lane to get them back into the game.
Yeah, and he was that threat that we know that he is on the Rise champion, and meant a lot of damage coming through from him. But he was pretty much the only one that was really able to step up and deliver that type of damage in that game here for FPX. Just wasn't enough here on that side to get it across.
Yeah, and then they get the ace around Baron, and you're thinking, okay, here comes FPX. They're right back in this game. Tien eventually would have a Baron steal, but it would be a JDG that got back into this game. Loken has an incredible performance on the Misfortune, finished the game 11-1-4, got a triple kill and a quadra kill to eventually close the game. And really the story of this series, sure, you can say FPX underperformed a little bit, but pretty much across the board, 1 through 5, everybody on JD Gaming was playing at the highest level and were outperforming their counterpart.
And I really like that you brought up Loken's performance in this game too, because the really impressive thing is how he really has become, a vital part of this squad and the way that they've been able to build together these wins. It's not only off of, Navi being an absolute star in the jungle this split. It's not all about the team fighting from Yagao. It's not about Zoom coming bach and, as you said, being 19-0. Insanity since he's come back into the lineup here. But it really has also shown that there is so much depth here to the way that JDG has improved over last year. Bot side is just one of them that has gotten so much stronger.
And he's, of course, returning to his former team is Loken. Game 3, he had another rock-solid performance, but he had the Aphelios in that one. And this game was a little bit crazy because you kind of had... FPX was down a big deficit. They kind of win one team fight, and then they get right back into the game. They say, okay, 3 kills. We can immediately close out the game. They run it down the Nexus, get it down to 20%, and then Loken respawns, and they get Aphelios.
Yeah, and that was one of those situations where you were watching that team fight, the first team fight down in mid, and you're like, man, Loken, stop. That's a bad position. And he gets blown up. Team fight goes the way of FPX. And then as soon as they're pushing and you see them that they're going for the final here, you're like, this could be the end. And you even got the white flag emote busting through. The BM was at its peak here for FPX. But that is exactly what sets up the big fall for them here. And it is Loken, the one kicking them right back down that hill. Capitalized here with the flash to finish things off.
Imagine the white flag emote, though, and FPX wins that to get back in the series. Full mental swing. Full mental swing in their favor. But yeah, Loken, big kudos to him in games 2 and 3. Definitely outperformed LWX, and he finished the series 22-16. Only died twice, 20 kills. It's only 3 games. Amassing 20 kills in 3 games is absolutely insane. And the big question, and maybe I thought heading into game 3, you're down 2-0. Do you throw Khan in? Should you have thrown Khan in if you're FPX?
I think that's something that you could talk about, but obviously given the situation and the playing and what you had been showing in the previous weeks, I don't think that was the right move. I understand the coaching staff wanting to stay with Gimgoon, but I think on the other side, when you do talk about that matchup into Zoom and how things had been going for Gimgoon,
Zoom was smashing.
And your back is against the wall here. The recipe might have been to put Khan in, put him in the carry matchup here and see what you can do. Everything included into that one here. That could have been something you could have seen. I still like the decision to stay with Gimgoon. Ultimately, it fails here for FPX, but I think that you're right that there is a reason to want to put Khan in. I just think that right now, the right choice was sticking with Gimgoon.
And of course, the happiest story of all this. Yes, JDG are back to the finals like they were in spring. Not quite the underdog story. They only had to win one best of this time. They didn't have to run through the whole gauntlet. But Kanavi in particular, with the whole Griffin debacle, he wins MVP of the split. Now he helps guide his team back to the finals for the first time since last year's spring. What a turnaround in his career in less than a full split, basically.
Man, you know what I actually want to see? I know it was the 5-year contract originally, the quote unquote slave labor contract basically drawn up here for him. I would love for him to get paid to sign basically a 5-year contract and get a massive amount of money in this one. My man deserves that money, let alone on everything he's been going through on the human side, the performance side here.
Woo.
strictly on the League of Legends side, that is cash money, baby. And that is deserving of the money here big time on those performances. And that's one of the reasons you've been talking about here, why it's so different for JDG this year compared to the underdog story of last year. They did not have a heavy hitter, power superstar player that's performing to that level. They do right now, especially with Kanavi.
And everybody else stepping up as well. And that's when that happens, you're 3-0. You 3-0 the defending world champs. The matchup before was also another upset. You had top-seeded IG against TES. All the storylines of Jackie Love versus his former team. It wasn't a 3-0. It was a 3-1 in favor of top. And we kind of talked about the big matchup was the jungle. Who's going to show up better on this series would probably win. That's exactly what happened. Karsa played some of his best games of the entire split in this series and is one of the main reasons why top came away with the victory.
And is it a big surprise that Karsa's best performances came on the Lee Sin pick that everybody knows and loves to watch from Karsa? Really, the step up in performance from him was necessary in these playoffs, and especially necessary to get by IG in the form that they had been showing. Look, you had to camp the Shy up top. You had to put him in the ground as much as possible here. Get as much of an advantage.
He was in the ground a lot, let me tell you.
Exactly. That's one of those situations that played out perfectly, identifying that was the weakness that you need to play through. And then you needed to back it up with the performance, with the thought coming through from Karsa. And he absolutely delivered on it there. My concern is heading into this final here against Kanavi. That is going to be based on performance overall throughout the regular split and the majority of the playoffs. You're going Kanavi, man. He is absolutely on fire, destroying everything that he's coming up against here. And yes, Karsa did look great in this one series. This is the only series that you can really say that I think in the WE series really was not at the peak of his performance. This is something that this matchup specifically in the jungle is always important, even more so here in this one. Karsa has the skill to step up and match him. Will we see that level of performance is the big question mark.
And when we jump back to the series against IG, game one, it looked like it was going to be Invictus taking away. They were fully in the driver's seat, and then they're pushing. They even got knocked down in inhib. They get a little bit too aggressive, too eager to end the game. TES wins a team fight in their base, and from there, it was 11 unanswered kills from them to get right back into the game, get a Baron, and completely turn the game around into IG, and potentially, honestly, turn the series around. I know it was just game one, but the mental and confidence that TES must have gotten after winning that game one absolutely paid dividends throughout this series.
You could see it on IG that they had flipped on autopilot mode at that point in the game. They were like, look, this is the next sequence of events that needs to happen. This is how we're going to do it, and this is how it's going to end, and we're going to move on. Nuh-uh. That's not the story here with what top put up the defense that they were able to do in that game one. Turned it around, and from that point on, it's one of those situations where you go, what went wrong here? What's going on? All of a sudden, we were in control, one little overstep here, and nothing is able to go back in our side. The momentum, everything shifted all the way to top, completely in control. The 11 unanswered kills is exactly that point.
And that momentum from that game turnaround carried right into game two because they had an insane early game. They got a massive early advantage, and unlike IG, they didn't really look back from there. They camped the living hell out of the Shy in the top lane on the Jace. He finished game two 0-5-0. 0 kill participation. They just stomped up there, and then they carried it into the bot lane as well. They were just winning outright in the laning phase in a lot of these matchups.
And then think about what you're going to be going up against in the next couple of series here. The Shy got a nasty treatment in this game too. The 10th opened up multiple tents, I'd say. It was a full-on tent city top lane here against the Shy.
Yeah.
That could be a similar story for Zoom. I think Zoom is not exactly the type of player like the Shy where you have to be putting together a game plan like this. He is certainly going to be a big part of JDG if they have success. This could be something that you look to repeat if you're top, because I tell you what, in game number 2, this was the plan from the get-go. This was the plan that they enacted early in the game, and this is the plan that won them the game number 2.
And it looked like at that point it's going to be a sweep because TES had all the momentum. And credit to IG, they bounced back in the third game. Pretty dominant performance out of them. It was pretty much vintage IG. 26-12 in kills in 33 minutes. The Shy gets the Aatrox. He bounces back. Puff 7-0 and 11 on the Aphelios. There was a lot of fighting, and IG time and time again were coming out ahead in these fights. But I think the confidence that Top amassed from the first two games, they just kind of wrote that game off, said, that's fine. Jackie Love, 2-6-3, didn't have a great game. That's fine. We're still at series point, and game 4, you really saw them bounce back. And that is when you had the performance from Jackie Love really showcase, as we see Mark disappear on the Discord. We'll give him a recall. Hunter the Doggo definitely, kicking him off. That's what I would say. As we try this again, we'll give him a call.
We back.
We're back. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, there we go.
Dun, 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 dun. Wait for it. Wait for it. Here we are.
Hey, good old Discord classic.
Good old Discord. I was gonna say Hunter kicked your cord just for the lulls, but
he's busy right now with this little hedgehog.
Is that a hedgehog? Oh, hedgehogs are.
It's super deformed. It's been under multiple surgeries to close up many gaping cotton wounds.
That's fair. Saying game 4, Jackie Love had a bad game 3. Game 4, you saw him step up with a huge quadra kill to completely turn the game in their favor. It was right after Knight died, so it was fully on his Ezreal to kind of carry that fight, and he did not miss a Mystic shot. Flashing over, or Arcane shifting over aggressively. We love seeing that out of him, just cleaning up his former teammates as TES would eventually clinch the series in that one. And one of the interesting things about this whole series, 4 games in a row, Syndra for Knight, one of his best champions. IG decides never to ban it.
Which is crazy, given that we know that Syndra is still a very powerful pick across multiple regions. She was drawing many bans for good reason, given the way that she is in the meta, the numbers for her, the items, everything lines up for Syndra to still be a really strong pick. And then you add in the fact that Knight is extremely talented on this champion. I don't know. That seems like a major oversight here from the IG side.
But it works for him. He was very solid in lane, and Rookie still had a relatively decent series, but Jackie Love definitely stood out above Puff in the 3 games that they did win. And the Shy, in their 3 losses, 3 kills, 16 deaths, and 2 assists. That's not good.
Yeah, no, simply put, not acceptable. From almost, you wouldn't accept that really, that level of performance almost from just your average top laner, let alone the Shy. And I think this is going to be one of those instances here where this can be a learning step. And this will be interesting to see if it's going to be used by the Shy and IG, or if it's just going to be completely ignored here. That this is maybe a sign that, yes, you are wonderful. Yes, you are extremely talented. Yes, your overconfidence and aggression sometimes is why you are so skilled and pull off some of these plays. But every now and then, a team like JDG, a team that has looked through all these type of things, a team like Top Esports can look at these advantages that they can get off of your mistakes, off of your aggression, off of your greed are the big points here. And that is something I think you might need to check and balance.
Yeah, sometimes maybe it's not good to be past your own river when you don't have any vision, because it turns out the jungler can kill you pretty easily. So rough showing there, but
you're not always going to turn around the 1v2, even if you are the Shy.
Sometimes if the other players play perfectly, there's no chance for the outplay. Usually outplays result from somebody on the other side screwing up. Top didn't really do it this series, and because of that, they're heading to the finals. TES versus JDG. Probably not the finals, not the most hype finals that people would have hoped for, but it's fresh blood in the LPL. We're going to have a new champion, and both of these teams have kind of been scratching behind the big perennial favorites in IG 2018, FPX 2019. Really excited to see both of them have the opportunity to showcase on this main stage. They don't play till Saturday, so it's early, but who are you feeling in these finals? Who's got the edge?
Oh man, this was a tough one because, as I said, I doubted JDG and the star power coming through. I thought FPX would say, "Yes, you are improved, but we're world champions here," and they were going to snuff him out.
Even though they were the lower seed, FPX were definitely the favorites coming into that match.
Yeah, and man, JDG are feeling good about themselves after that performance they put up against those favorites. And look, I would love to go on the JDG side, but I can't go against Knight and Jackie Love. My boys are going to come through here, and they are going to deliver a hell of a performance in this finals. It is going to go the distance. It'll be the full 5 games. There's no way that this won't go all that way, and it's going to come down to Knight making the big plays in Game 5 and getting this advantage here. I think there's a lot to watch in this series. Loken and Jackie Love is going to be a great matchup down in the bottom side. You got Karsa looking to match up against Kanavi, doing an MVP level of performance that he's been giving us here. Of course, Zoom continuing his dominance in the top side, but the big one for me, and that X factor, and why I'm calling it in Game 5, it's going to be Knight against Yagao. Yagao was great against Dorian being FPX, but the big weakness here for Yagao is that laning phase. He needs to get out of that laning phase in an okay state here to deliver on the team fights and mid-game potential for JDG. You're not going to get too many opportunities to get out of lane doing okay against someone like Knight, who can absolutely bully you during the laning phase and take that advantage and use it perfectly for the squad.
Yeah, we'll see how many games of Syndra Knight gets in this series. Obviously, Yagao can play it
if
also.
JDG's going to get to 5, it's going to be none.
Yeah. The key is still the performance level of Karsa in this series. If he plays to the level he did against IG, absolutely TES can win the series. If he plays like he has at times in the regular season, JDG might 3-0 this one.
Oh yeah, and that really is something I will say here. I'm counting on Karsa showing up here and bringing that level that it's going to be Knight that lets to be the difference maker here. If you're JDG, all you need is Navi to step on that matchup here, step on the throat here, and not let up one little bit. Full pedal to the metal here, because if he's getting ahead, he's getting into his advantages here. That is what's going to let Yagao, other members of this squad, pick up those advantages. And when they do, that is why JDG is so unbelievably dangerous, and they've shown it here, especially with that 3-0 over FPX.
Give me Graves, give me Kindred. I don't think Karsa's playing either of those, but I'm ready for Kanavi to pull it out.
No Sejuani's here.
Lee Sin and the other fun junglers. That's what the LPL is all about. The finals we thought we'd be seeing ends up being the third place match now. IG versus FPX. Yes, there's a third place match, and yes, it is meaningful because there are still championship points on the line. Even though there's 4 teams from the LPL going to Worlds this year, that second seed is still oh so highly coveted, because getting into the gauntlet with some of these world-class teams, you don't want to have to rely on that, where one bad day can be the end of your world championship run. So still, the points are important. Both teams obviously looking to kind of redeem themselves. I have no idea which way to lean between FPX and IG.
I can't tell you which way to lean in this one. The only one I can lean on here is the fandom here, and I'm going full on fanboy for my boy, the super carry Doyne B, and the FPX side. I think they rebound here, get this victory over IG. Regardless of that, you know that this is an important matchup. Yes, this is the third place match. Who cares? I tell you who cares. IG and FPX care. They care a hell of a lot, let alone the bragging rights here for beating one another, getting that third place, all these type of things. You hit it right on the nail. You got to get these world points here. These are valuable for these two squads. Even if you're thinking you're both going to Worlds, it matters what amount of points you're getting here in the spring for both of them. This is absolutely going to be a banger of a third place match.
Yeah, and really just the opportunity to see potentially 5 games between the last 2 world championships. It's something I'm excited for. So third place.
What else are you going to be watching at this time? The Roblox championships? Come on, get out of here.
EU Masters, man. Come on. I throw slight shade at EU
watch
Masters,
that,
but it is exciting.
EU Masters, LPL third place championships. Come on.
Wednesday is the third place one. We'll talk about the highlights on that day, of course. And Then the finals aren't until Saturday. So we're dragging out the last bit of competitive league we're going to have because we just announced the LEC is not coming back till June 12th, Mark. It's not May yet.
Rip.
It's not May.
And
Oh,
that's perfect. That's exactly when Schalke is going to knock on the hyperbaric chamber of Forgiven and say, it's time. We need you. It's
then what happens when he doesn't wake up? Oh, no.
and then he shuts back the pod. He says, no.
See you in 2031. See you later. When's Valorant becoming a competitive esport?
When's the Riot Balance team going to get 300 years of experience? That's when I'll come out.
That's when he'll be there. We'll go through all the LPL action as it comes. But that's it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.